So Susie, I'll come to you.
Well, following on from the audit that we've just had, and thinking about being able to see the amount that we have available on general reserve very easily and clearly, my suggestions were that the SIL monies we've received in respect of new development in the village are obviously unnecessarily funds which must be spent on community infrastructure projects as and when they're agreed, planned and executed. And until then, up till now, those monies are held on deposit along with Ackworth Parish Council's general reserve funds. So when you look at the amount of money available, that balance is somewhat skewed by the holding of the SIL monies in the same account, and makes it unclear as to the true figure available for what's left of our precept and our balance of general reserves. And additionally, the SIL funds are well over 100,000, so it's a substantial amount of money and could create confusion as to the true amount of money available. They are capital funds, they're not available for monthly running costs or other earmarked projects. I know that they are earmarked themselves, but it's a feeling that it would be advantageous if they were held in a separate account from reserves, both clarity and transparency for the residents. And also, there doesn't appear from the audit report to be any reason why we shouldn't do this. The interest accruing to those SIL monies would also go to that deposit account and could be added to the capital projects they're being spent on, rather than swallowed up in our general reserves. And also, as we're going to be reviewing those accounts, or all the accounts, as advised by the auditor, it seems a good time to contemplate separating it out. And the strata estate management fee currently stands at something over 45,000, and that's being collected from residents of that estate for maintenance of the site they all inhabit. And it feels to me as though that money is something that we're holding in trust really for work to be done for them, and it's to me something like a solicitor's or accountant's client account, and should be held separately from monies which are likely definitely to be our reserves, so that we can be quite clear what's held to one side on their behalf with you, once that site becomes manageable and sold by us. So clearly there'll also be interest accruing to those funds, but at the moment we can't see clearly, but we could deal with more transparently if they were paid into the separate deposit account in which those funds are held. And again, the auditor didn't seem to, although he commented on the earmarked funds in the general reserves, he didn't suggest that we shouldn't do that. So I just feel for clarity and transparency it would make life easier.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll take Susie's proposal. Can I get a seconder for that, please? Andy, a seconder. I'll open the floor to comments, please. Sarah, yes.
2 points, really. I think it's a bit, I don't know why we'd expect the auditors to make a comment that we shouldn't do something when it's not part of a proposal or a practice anyway. And secondly, what's to be gained by having a separate bank account? Can we not just itemise it under a separate heading through our current financial software, so that it is, I don't know because I haven't asked Gemma this question and she's not here to respond to it. But I do know that, my understanding is the Realtus software has certain sort of constraints about how you can organise funding, or maybe kind of organise funding and the headings you can have. But I think there are also certain freedoms within it. So cannot the SIL money and the strata public open space money just not be identified, itemised separately through the realtor system without the added administrative time taken to have a separate account, deal with the bank and all that sort of thing. I don't see what's to be gained by having a separate account. I can see what's to be gained by having it identified separately within our system, but I don't see what's to be gained except perhaps more work and more paper and more administrative things by having separate accounts.
I'll bring Amanda in and then shall we? Yeah.
I was just going to say, wouldn't the best way forward to get the Finance Committee to look at it properly as you reviewing the bank accounts anyway, because it might be that by splitting the money you don't do as well on the interest rates. So the bigger the balance, the better the return sometimes, in which case obviously it will make financial sense to continue with some other system of identifying the different monies. But I think it's something that's beyond the time that we've got and the information that we've got, whereas if we sort of ask the question of the Finance Committee, that committee can work on it and get some actual information to look at to see what the implications would be, and we can get feedback from the clerk as well as to what the time impact would be.
I think I sort of agree with both points really. It's about that transparency of that when you're there. In education budgets you'd have the SIL money and the sort of capital funding, so you knew that was for all intents and purposes, I forget what the word is, but it's ring fenced.
Yeah.
It's sort of ring fenced funding. But again, it brings in the interest about the point about interest. But if things are in a separate account, it's building up its own interest, isn't it? Whereas if it's in an account, I'm not a finance person at all, as you can tell.
Might need a bit of advice.
You know what I mean? But I can see, I think from a transparency in a resident point of view, they need to see that money is there and will only be used for specific purposes, and also clear for us as councillors that it's there, it's untouched, and that's how much we're spending on that. But I'm not sure again about a separate bank account just because of the management of that.
Lynn first and then I'll bring you in.
I was just going to say that thinking to take it to the Finance Committee, if you take it as it is now, we're no further forward with the discussion. So wouldn't we better, my view is I don't really care whether it's in a separate bank account or not. I just think it needs to be clear where it is, and that it doesn't say, you're right, in a budget it would be a line in the account and you know that can only be used for that. But I think that if we're going to discuss it further, we might need a little bit of information about whether it would make a difference in interest if it was in a different account or not, because actually they're the things we're going to take into account. So perhaps we could ask Gemma to look at how to look at whether it could be in whatever we move to be clearly marked out if it wasn't in a separate account, and then look at whether interest rate options would make a difference if it was all together or in separate accounts. So then we've got the information for the Finance Committee to move forward with.
Thank you everyone so far. Andy?
Well, I was going to say that we've discussed having to make all the finance information public, and if somebody looks at if somebody saw the current status of the balance on the deposit account, they wouldn't realise that there's the SIL money, £150 or £1,000 worth. And even as councillors, if we look at that number that at the 1st of April was 306,000, that doesn't mean we've got 306,000, it's not ours. And I can only give it from perspective of my business when, I'm not VAT registered at the moment, but I have been. And I had a separate account for VAT because it's not my money. Somebody paid me, including VAT, and I thought, well, I'd put that somewhere else because it's somebody else's, and I get paid certain amounts by some people that, again, it's not my money, it's them paying a fee that is going to be paid out later. And I put that in a separate account because it's not mine. And it just keeps it quite clear, and you can then easily look at, and maybe I haven't got Realtus type software, but you can easily look at your bank and you know what you've got. And because we put the SIL money comes into the current account and gets transferred to the deposit account, it actually makes no difference whether it goes to the same deposit account as everything else or a specific SIL account. You know, admin-wise, there's no more work involved in it, because then when we spend it, we take it out of that account. But also, on the basis, what the auditor has suggested is it needs somebody else to approve things in the banking system, which is why they recommended different accounts. That person approving it can see absolutely how much is in that bank account when they're approving it, and check that it kind of fits all right, because you're not looking at and then having to think, oh, how much SIL money have we got, how much maintenance fee have we got? You know, you've got the right amount there, and it's just much easier, and it keeps it clear in that basis.
You got this?
I was just going to say the Realtus software, maybe I could print the report out each month, which has got the earmark reserves on, and then you can see what's where, until a decision's made on what you want to do.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that'd be a start anyway, certainly. I think broadly, I think as a council, again, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think broadly we're all on the same page in terms of transparency and having these things separate. I think there might be some questions about where we can get the best interest, make the money work the best for the council in terms of gaining that interest, and maybe that is through a separate accounting sort of like setup. I don't know, I think there's a bit more of a question mark around that, and also if we get the money to generate more interest and build up funds, we want to do that as effectively as possible, broadly. Are there any, so we've got a proposal on the table, personally I think I would like to suggest that as part of some of the other things in regards to the financial audit and the things that have been delegated to Gemma already, I'd like to ask that that an amendment is made in terms of the Parish Council agrees in principle with this proposal, but we want to review to make sure that we get the most effective accounting system, and that might be in terms of having separate accounts, but certainly to have it listed in terms of transparency. That's the sort of suggestion I'd like to put forward. There might be better words to put that in. So yeah, if I could just put that to council. Are there any comments on that, Sarah?
Yeah, I think if the amendment is worded that we agree in principle, that means that we agree in principle with two bank accounts. And I want to withhold my judgment until I get more information, basically, and do what Amanda suggests, which is, gather more information and discuss it in more detail in conjunction with the review of the banking, basically. Would you like me to, or should we word something?
I mean, it's good that it's flagged up so that if that review is happening, that's something that will be helpful to bear in mind, won't it?
John, did you want to comment?
I was just going to suggest in the first line, Ackworth Parish Council investigates the setting up of two further deposit accounts as part of a review, ongoing review on financing. And that means it leaves it open, because if we have a vote and it falls, that means it's fallen. If a vote and it's passed, it means we have to set up two. So it investigates as part of an ongoing review, financial review.
Is that okay from...
So that's a proposal for an amendment.
So John's proposal there. So that's to put in place, investigates
the setting up of two further deposits accounts in
Part of
an ongoing review, financial review. Yeah, that's it.
So it has to be a bit more specific though about it being self-funding. Because the financial review covers all of it, doesn't it? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I meant leave the rest of it in.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
All right, as long as,
Leave
yeah.
the rest of it in.
Yeah.
Just insert, investigate and,
Yeah.
As part of the review of the bank accounts.
yeah, but leave the rest of it in.
Yeah, okay. I didn't get that.
So I've got an amendment proposed by John.
Mhm.
Can I get a seconder for that then, please? Susie's seconded. I was hoping would. Thank you very much. So we've got the amended proposal, which is investigate into essentially the buzz put forward by Susie as part of the review that we're doing into the banking, and yeah, so that's what we're put forward. Can I get votes in favour then, please, of that amendment? All in favour? Thank you very much. I'll come back to you, Susie. We've got part 2 of your. Are we taking that all as one, part 1 and 2 together?
Oh, sorry, I thought that was,
I'm just double checking more than anything.
I think, no.
Just because it's kind of listed for me as
Well,
though I've got part 1 and part 2.
I assume that was part of the investigation.
Okay, so we'll consider what we've just voted on to consider both parts of that proposal then. Okay, thank you very much. Excellent. We're moving to item 17, which is the private part of the meeting. So thank you, the general public that are still here. Thank you very much.